Hello, Daz, and welcome.
Hi there. Great to be there again.
For those online that are familiar with remote viewing, you are going to be no stranger, but for the benefit of those that may not have heard of you, I'm going to go ahead and read a brief bio about your background. Daz Smith is an artist, graphic designer, and author, an active remote viewer who continuously works with the top people in the field on both public and private remote viewing projects. He also runs several large information websites on the subject of remote viewing, and he edits and publishes Eight Martinis, a print online magazine dealing with the subject of remote viewing. Daz has also extensively researched the CIA Stargate archives and is very familiar with the 91,000 pages of information released on the government remote viewing programs. For the past 3 years or more, Daz has also been part of an experimental project called CRYPTOVIEWING, whereby remote viewing is used to predict cryptocurrencies, markets, financials, news, and more for a base of subscribers. And I understand that's doing really well, Daz. Is that right?
Yeah, it's doing well at the moment. I think we have, it fluctuates slightly, but I think we have around about 30,000 subscribers, and they seem to be
Excellent.
happy with the data we provide. Like everything on remote viewing, you're never 100% on, but more
Mhm.
generally, we're more accurate than we are inaccurate on predicting, future markets and cryptocurrencies for them.
I am a subscriber as well. I tend to my favorite is the more woo woo type of
Yeah,
projects you come out with once in a while. But
yeah,
the cryptoviewing.com is the website for that. Is that right?
it is. Yes, yeah.
Okay. You got a great background here. I'm just going to read a little bit more here. I think people would be interested in if they haven't heard of it before. On your bio, it says from a very early age, 10, with a lifelong interest in the paranormal, Daz trained for many years in classic psychic techniques, including clairvoyance, mediumship healing, meditation, divination, and many other forms of psychic interpretation. In 1997, Daz trained in CRV, which stands for Controlled Remote Viewing, in London with an ex-Spec Ops soldier. Since this time, Daz has been working with the remote viewing community for over 15 years and uses his skills for public remote viewing projects, prediction work, private projects, and for missing people work. Daz's missing persons work has primarily been done for a U.S. based group working with and for the U.S. police services. This group is called the Find Me Group, which is at findme2.com. As they are they still in existence, Daz, and doing work? Do you
Yeah,
know?
yeah, they're still working hard. Yeah, finding the occasional person as well, which helps. Yeah.
And who is the point person on that? Is it someone in the remote viewing community?
No, no, it's a person who's actually an ex DEA agent
Okay.
and police officer. His name's Kelly Snyder, which puts him in the unique position of being the great project manager between psychics and intuitives and police forces.
So remote viewers are just one of the resources this individual uses to try to find
Yeah,
these
yeah, and I
people.
would say, to be honest, the remote viewers are the smallest component. The
Okay.
majority of the people are just clairvoyant, mediumship type psychics, and
Okay.
they also have their own dog search and rescue teams and all those kind of assets as well that they can use in cases as well.
Okay. I've never checked out that website. I'm going to check it out and see if they have any current information as far as what kind of success they've had and that kind of thing. It'd be interesting to check out. In 2010, Daz graduated the Lynn Buchanan PSI operational certification program. The certification program is designed to challenge viewers to produce CRV work in a style and at a caliber that meets or exceeds new industry standards. Daz has for 10 years worked for some of the main names in the field of remote viewing, including Lynn Buchanan, Courtney Brown, Paul Smith, Angela Smith, Alexis Champion, and many others on both private, public remote viewing work. During the COVID years, Daz has hosted regularly Friday night chats with interviews and topics involving remote viewing, which has just been great. It's really a phenomena. And you actually have a podcast now as well where those chats are archived. Isn't that right?
That's right. Yeah, yeah. Because I listen to a lot of podcasts myself, I thought, why not take the video ones and make audio versions out of them as well? Because many people like myself, when you're working, you just want to listen to something to keep you going.
What's the best way to find that podcast if I were to search in
Oh
Apple
yeah,
podcasting app?
it's pretty much everywhere. It's on Spotify, it's on the iTunes store, it's on Google. So it's just search for the Signal Line.
Okay, the Signal Line.
Yep.
And there's probably links on your website, remoteviewed.com as
I
well.
think there is, yes.
All right, great. I'd love to have you back sometime to talk about your journey from the more classic psychic kind of research and experiences you've had. You actually have a book that goes into some of your experiences, but then you kind of transitioned into remote viewing. And I'd like to talk about that transition and how those two worlds interlap or don't, and just your thoughts about all that. I think it'd be really fascinating.
Yeah, no problem. We can do that.
But for this interview, we're talking about the Hellfire Group remote viewing project. I was the tasker for this project. For those who don't know what the Hellfire Group is, this is really another group among many that you've started as and invited a handful of people into. And the Hellfire Group, what would you describe the Hellfire Group? What's our purpose? And where did the name come from?
The name came from essentially an 18th century group of rich gentlemen that used to meet up and discuss topics of the day and have a drink of gin or something together in these specialist clubs. So it came from that, really, and there was a famous one in London called the Hellfire Club. But what we do is, I guess we're just a group of like-minded individuals that have a talent in remote viewing, that are invite only to the group to just explore the kind of targets we'd all like to work. The woo-woo or mystery targets, but because we're remote viewers and we have to work blindly, we can't task them to ourselves.
Right. And we've had a handful of projects so far. We've done the first one, which was the Frederick Valentiche airplane disappearance, which seemed to involve what he was reporting as some type of a UFO.
Yeah.
And we've had Dennis Nappy II. He did a project on artifacts
from Roswell,
retrieved from Roswell, and if they were involved in any I think reverse engineering technology, that kind of thing.
Yeah. I think it was from some chips or silicon chips or wafers from the book Day After Roswell by Philip J. Corso. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I think we've had one or two other ones, but
we did the Tic Tac UAP event. Yeah, that was a good one.
Yeah.
And I think we did one for NIAM, which was the experiment Dolly the sheep. Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Yep. And so this one, I got the task, which is really exciting, and I tested something that was an interest of mine. The Council of Nine, also known as the Council of Saturn. We're not going to go into depth in terms of what the tasking was. We'll put a little blurb here before this video or before the series of videos giving a little bit of info about the tasking and some of the feedback. The council, I will say, the Council of Nine is found in several bodies of channel material. So it's one of these targets where there really isn't any verifiable feedback other than the information in these channeled works, which isn't really verifiable either. So it's kind of a woo-woo target. And Daz, before we get into your session, I just want to get your take on this target. I knew you have a sense that maybe some of it is not. Well, I'll let you go. You mentioned some of it being kind of story-like, or you thought some of it was maybe a myth. But what's your take on this target in general?
I have to be honest, I don't know a huge amount about it. The only encounter I have of reading about this was, and it's probably, I don't know, 15 or so years ago, I read a book called Yori by Pucherich. And I vaguely remember them, Yori Geller then, and other people having encounters with these channeled kind of beings of some kind, which I think they called themselves the Nine or Council of the Nine.
Mm-hmm.
And I vaguely remember, it wasn't just Yuri Geller, it was the scientist involved, but also a couple of other laboratories that had some kind of visitations and strange experiences with this group of people. I don't remember all the details because it was, literally 20 years ago I read the book. And that's, to be honest, probably as far as I've got with knowing about this topic. I don't have any of the other references from any of the other sources, to be honest.
Mm-hmm. So as far as doing the session itself, what's your takeaway after having completed 5 sessions on this target? What are your
Oh,
thoughts in general?
yeah, it's an interesting one. I don't know. I think it's a bit mixed. Because I did have some data that did indicate a story-like feel to some of it,
Mm-hmm.
but that's not to say it was to all of it. And I may have just been picking, because this Council 9 stuff is replicated in 3 or 4 different places and from different people and groups. It's not to say that they're all real or trustworthy or that they're all real, without any kind of fiction in there. So I don't know. I'm a bit open minded at the moment, and I purposely haven't seen anyone else's data yet either. I haven't looked at any of it, so I'm waiting to see the videos so I can actually see what. Because I like to see people describing their data because you can see it in their eyes what they feel about the data. So I'm waiting for that for a bit more feedback to make a bit more of a decision. If I'm completely honest with you, at the
Okay.
moment, just based on mine, I'm a bit. I don't know. I'm 70% believable that there is something happening there, and 30% I'm not too sure.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
And ultimately, we'll never know for sure. We'll make our gut
yeah,
judgments, but it's
yeah,
the nature of this type of target that I think it's always going to be shrouded in some type of mystery. But it is fun to
yeah.
explore.
It does seem, from what I remember though, it does seem very similar to what I recently wrote about in the last 8 Martinis magazine, where Ingo Swann and his people were working with a group called the Doma Daughters of Ma, and they were, that was like a number of like 9 or 12 of them. It has that same kind of feeling about it as that. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I think you'll find that when you look at some of the other remote viewers sessions for this project, that there are a lot of correspondences with some of your data. So that'll be
Yeah.
interesting for you. Well, let's go ahead and start getting into your session data, and you can cover any points you'd like for the 5 sessions, and then we'll go from
Okay.
there if you want to
Yeah.
share your screen.
Okay. So yeah, that's just my thing here. So on my first session, then, bear in mind I hadn't even looked at this since we did it as well. So it's probably going back about 3 or 4 weeks now, or more.
Mm-hmm.
So this first one was done, late in December. I started off with a structural, looks like structural data here, which it was big and large, and it gave me an AOL straight away, a pyramid type feel to it.
Mm-hmm.
And then I got structured data here, which looks like I'm inside of a structure because here's my structural elements here, and this for me is my ideogram of a life form inside of a structure. And this felt, the structure felt like it was very old, dark, kind of damp and musty smelling. Again, it was very large and it was in the past. More life stuff here, yeah. So the life inside it was male, and it had like a medicine man feel to it, so a bit like a spiritual person and a leader. This is my ideogram here of a really complex structure, which I wrote here. It's a structure complex, lots of overlapping parts, lots of verticals, yeah, tall column-like shapes there, lots of big spaces inside, and it also felt like it had a tunnel system to it as well. So I followed this, and yeah, definitely felt like there was a downwards motion through some kind of tunnel system, which had a feeling like a well because it was very dark. So what else did I get here? So that's just sensory data there, and it's reminiscent here of a dark, damp, old, musty smelling place. Really,
Your AI there was kind of interesting. Feel mystical, like magic.
yes, it did feel like magic. Yes. And that's and all the times I've done an RV session over the years as well, which is thousands now. I haven't very often written things like mystical magic, and I definitely haven't written anything like medicine man before in an
Mm-hmm.
RV session. So this is me trying to sketch it again. It felt like a multi-layered structure with tall parts as well. And it did have this very stone-like feeling about it, a monolithic kind of thing about it, which is weird here because I have the data now. I'm looking at it, space tunnel.
Hmm.
Don't know what that was about. Inside here, I'm trying to move inside in front of the target here. You can see I'm trying to draw layers with some kind of tunnel system inside of this. I'm trying to work out this tunnel system below because I couldn't quite get the shape of it. Looking at this more in detail, I knew it was made of stone, and it just felt like a big multi-levered structure. And I was being led downwards. There was something important about the downwards movement of inside of this structure. Again, more structural stuff here. You know, it's deep embedded. I'm below ground level here. So here's the ground level. The structure is above ground in many levels. And I felt like I was at this point here, down below ground in some kind of a pit or something. And to be honest, when it almost had a feeling of some kind of like Mexican pyramid, or even something like the Dome on the Rock kind of feeling to it, because it had that religious kind of mystical, revered feeling to it, but it also felt like there was something underneath it as well, some kind of tunnel, secret kind of area to it. Here's me trying to do stage 3 of it, you know, and so on. This is down below it again. Feels like a vertical space with a cavern-like feel, and it felt like it was like a repository for something. More data here. So yeah, hard, solid structure, temple-like. And I had a weird archaeological feel to this. Felt like someone might have been digging for something, and had a mythology about it. Life again, a male person in the past. They were ancient, had an ethnic feel to them, very religious and revered. And I kept getting things like Panther and Guatemala, so it did actually feel quite, you know, Mexican or South African, yeah, South America, sorry, in feeling to this.
Mm-hmm.
And then I started picking up what this was used for. This place felt like it was ritualistic, spiritual, and it had almost like a message from the gods. And, you know, it all felt very kind of Indiana Jones Temple of Doom kind of feeling to it. Especially this descent downwards underneath. And this was me trying to describe this room underneath ground here. And it felt like it had some kind of container or box or artifact that energy was coming off and ricocheting around the room in some form. And it felt like, you know, this artifact thing may have been something like a heavy stone slab or tablet. And then I stopped on that one because I was getting some data like Templars and treasure and artifact and hidden and all that kind of stuff. And when I start getting stuff like that, it's a bit hard to shake. So I stopped at that point. Like I honestly can't remember what the retasking was you gave me on these.
Yeah, I
You
can
gave
give you that.
Okay,
Sure.
excellent.
And that first session you did, just make a note. Dimmy's first session, you and Dimmy had a lot of correspondence with this
Right.
data of a structure with a strong downward movement of energy. Uh,
Interesting.
she had a sort of a chimney-like structure, which is
Okay,
kind
yeah.
of even visible in some of your drawings, and
Yeah.
something moving downwards. So you guys were picking up on the same data there in that
Yeah.
session.
Yeah.
So your the retasking I did uh, for you was I wanted you to you have in that data there. I believe in that data. I don't recall you actually going over it. You had some life in that data that you wrote. It felt male, past,
Yeah.
intimately connected to the structure, felt educational, a teacher. And I just wanted to get more activities and objectives
Yeah.
of this life at the target. And I also wanted you to see if you could probe a little bit more as to the creator of the energy at the target
Mm-hmm.
that you especially have there at your the last page, the second to last or last page where the energy is bouncing around
Yeah.
there. Wanted
Yeah,
to
that
find
one.
out what more about what that quantum like energy, who created that quantum like energy.
Okay, yeah. So okay, then I went to the second session and yeah, I had this really interesting ideogram here, which was all about this energy, glowing or iridescent energy. which was moving, and it felt like it felt like it was almost like electronic rain. And I got the word here, raining down. And there was a life form involved, looking up at this energy, which was essentially above and around him, and there was a real big sense of spirituality about this. And the life here was a male. He was over 30s, and this was definitely in the past. He had a central row. Felt like it was a life-changing event for the life, a confirmation or acceptance, or almost like a spiritual awakening as well that was happening to him. And this is me trying to describe my stickman here of a life form within all this energy that was moving around him. Maybe even moving inside him in some way. So yeah, I wrote here, there's an energy. It feels esoteric, and I can feel that if you would be there, your hair would be standing on end with some kind of static electricity. Mm-hmm. The energy felt very subtle, almost imperceivable by human eyes, and it felt natural, but it was actually manufactured. White, blue, and yellow, very energetic, very fizzing, and it felt alive. Almost. What's the word? I can't think of the word, but it was almost like vibrating and humming with this kind of intense energy. Mm-hmm. It felt like I had a consciousness about it as well. So I'm writing here more about the energy here. It feels like the energy is an interaction. It changes and has the power to change. It feels like it comes from above, and then it's all in the air around the life form. It felt warm, alive, fizzing with energy, very volatile. And I tried to explain this because I wrote the word here, explain. I think that was the volatile. And I wrote the words here with this weird sketch. It feels like it's flowing and expanding. It feels like it's a presence that's behind this, controlling and sending this. So I tried to describe the energy here as the instruction at the top. Iridescent, rainbow-like, heavy, falling and bouncing from above. It had a plasma-like feel to it, so it had a density to it. Feels very electrical, and a feel of a buzz to this, which gave me the AOL there of almost like the initial spark of a life of a human kind of feeling. Very explosive, and it had a great creative feel to it as well, almost like the point of creation. So I asked what the purpose of energy was, and it was all about inspiration, allowing someone to change, allowing someone to accept creativity. And yes, I had the strange AI here and I wrote here, this feels above my pay grade. Almost like it was imperceivable to me. It was like, out of my understanding what this was all about or the plan of it. Mm-hmm. Again, I tried to do a bit more of a sketch here, getting slightly more detail now. So there's my stickman, life in the middle there. And this is just like all the energy. It was coming down, but, engulfing him in all this energy. And he felt like he was very accepting of this. And it would involve a change within this person, but a change over time. It's not like an instant change. It was almost like a total change of spirituality of this person, but it's a slow progress. And I wrote there, this feels somewhat elusive, as if guarded. Life is guarded information, and it could be dangerous. A feeling that paths kept back until the time is right. So that's probably something to do with the slow dispersal of this information over time. And I wrote here, this process changes the male life and it inspires them. The life was over 30. I asked, what is he doing here? I had a feeling that he was chosen to be there, almost like it was part of his destiny. And it's a life, or a male life, I should say, on a transformational journey. And this is the key moment it all comes together for him. And it feels like it's a part of a bigger plan, in effect, something about a higher purpose. And again, I had the kind of impression of this that, and the word "you don't need to know." It's almost like the whole thing was way bigger than me as a small, human individual. It also felt that this had a teaching element, and it was all to do with interaction with people, maybe a leader in the making. So yeah, maybe it feels like the information coming through this person, and this person may be a leader that goes on and tells others about it in some way. All about inspiration and changing himself, but maybe other people over time as well. I got moving something here. He is involved in the movement of something. I think that was the hands, if I remember correctly. It felt like his hands were in motion doing something.
Okay.
Again, it all felt like it was very much in the past for me. And I wrote here a small note. This has a very godlike feel to the target, as if I'm intruding into something unknown or a larger or a bigger plan of things. As if I'm too small or not very intelligent enough to understand the scale involved and the complexity of the plan. And it felt like a very inspiring kind of myth. And I got the word story there as well, myth and story. So I looked here at the creator of the energy, and I had this very strange bubble-like cloud. And I labeled it something like space dust. And I'm actually in a bit of shock just reading this again, because I forgot all about this. And I wrote there, above space, vastness, everything, everywhere, and universal. And I'm going to go off a bit of a tangent here, really, because this is just, I just thought about this as I'm reading this. I literally just did a target for a guy called David on Reddit. And bear with me, because I'm going off on a tangent here. But the target for that was something, I can't remember the exact wording, but the target for the wording of that was, describe the mechanism to why remote viewers can't win the lottery. And I did 4 remote viewing sessions on that, and I essentially, my first one described a lottery machine, and then the next one described a mental psychic process of information coming into a mind and then going out. And the other 2 sessions after that, the third one, I described all these micro wormholes in time and space that linked information from the universe to the mind of the human. And then the 4th session was to try to find out what was behind all this. And so I actually went through one of the wormholes, went to this place in space. And I'm saying all this because the source of all the information behind all that, why we couldn't win the lottery, is exactly the same as what I've got here on this creator of the energy page here. That's why it made me recall. It was like, holy shit, this is exactly the same as what I did with that other target. But when you think about it, and it's all about information higher than ourselves, they're almost the exact same RV session, which is, yeah, it just blew me away. Seeing this, coming back to this page and seeing this drawing after I literally just did that session last week for them, I'm like, whoa, how weird is this? Anyway, sorry about going off there.
No, the source is showing itself again. I mean, ultimately, there's that idea that everything is all coming from one source. Yes. You want to call it the creator, or God, or universal mind, or whatever. It seems to be showing itself. And
I'm using literally use the same words. I used the word like universal in the other RV session. It's slightly different in that one. I went to a place that was completely black, but microscopic and super densely compacted. But it also felt very universal like this. And it was up in the higher in the vastness of space like this. So yeah, it's very strange that I've done 2 targets in a similar day, completely different topics, but both sources of information, now that I'm thinking about it, in hindsight, on reviewing this, seemed to possibly be the same place of this godlike, universal, conscious energy that's surrounding us, but away from us up there in space somewhere.
Maybe we can get a page from that other session you did and put it in here in the video just to.
Yeah, what I'll do after this, I'll send you a copy of it so you can have a look at it. Yeah,
awesome.
Wow, yeah, just blew me away seeing that. Sorry, anyway, as I said, let's get back to this. And I wrote here, so this is one of the times I don't really know what I'm feeling. It feels like a huge, open, universal thing, like everything and everywhere. and it felt like it was space date based, but it was like projecting something downwards.
Mm-hmm.
The life itself was moving. I felt like he was using his hands almost, and his body as well, and this was a surprise event for him. Felt caught up in a spiritual communication energy event, which was life changing. Sorry. And here's the energy source type thing. It's kind of almost like radiating it down, but I'm not sure
Mm-hmm.
radiating is the right word. But the energy itself felt very exotic, very alive. So it did have like a consciousness about it, and it was energy in motion, and it affects the life in life-changing way. I wrote AOL UFO event because there wasn't like a physical UFO, but it did have that kind of UFO kind of something in the sky downwards kind of feeling to it. And I wrote here, this has lots of implications, especially over times, and mainly most of these will probably be years later. So it will be a slow progress of unfolding. And my final notes on this one, I wrote, I get a sense of a single event amongst many over a long period. A large, convoluted plan over time and space. This has a very change for mankind feel to it. A myth or a story that grows with each retelling, but this is an intentional part of the process. And as we discussed, this kind of stuff that from the target's been in several different sources and books, so that would make sense really. And I had a note here to myself. At this stage, because I had the words appear about story and stuff that grows. I did have a feeling here. I wondered if it was faked or a made up story at that point. Only because I think I got the words myth and story in there. I wrote here, it feels real, but there's something else as well. So yeah, on reflection, looking at it now, I probably feel that there were definitely some people inspired to write what they wrote. But I would say that if there was something else there, it's probably like all of us when we write stuff and we're inspired. There's 50 to 80% pure inspiration, but because you're making up a story and you have to put it in context and bits and pieces, there's probably a few bits and pieces in there as well that are a bit fictional just to help it along somewhat.
Absolutely.
And then so then I sent that to you, and I can't remember what the targeting was back, but then it was moving on to
I can give
session
that
3
if you want.
Okay, yep.
Go. And I wanted to interject. So this life form that keeps popping up in your sessions, it seems like a singular life form receiving some type of energy which changes them over time. As I was going over your sessions, I kept thinking, who is this? Is this like a historical figure that we would know? And it almost felt kind of biblical to me in a way, like we're describing. It's almost like at the tip of your tongue, but you don't know. And Demi had an interesting piece of data come through. She, at some point, I think it might have been her second session, she had the word Enoch come through, and she had no idea what Enoch was. And she ended up looking it up and sent me a little note after she sent in her session. I'll just read her note here. Hi, Darby. I have no idea who was Enoch in his book, but it came as an AOL. And she goes on to say that she felt compelled after her session to look it up. And she has a quote here from wherever she got the information. Enoch, the seventh patriarch in the book of Genesis, at first revered only for his piety, he was later believed to be the recipient of secret knowledge from God. And when I read that, I immediately thought of your sessions and this theme of this energy coming down, which could be described as knowledge, and it changes his life, and he becomes a leader and a teacher. Does it relate? It who knows? But it was an interesting piece of data.
It had my whole impressions, because you try not to draw these visual impressions when you're doing the RV. It had that kind of feeling to it, something like one of those ancient biblical people, like Moses or Enoch or any of them really.
I was thinking of Moses too. Especially when we get into this object that starts showing up not only in your session, but at least one or two other viewers describe a an energetic object. So the retasking for your third session, I basically wanted you to try to track the life form's life, starting from the energetic event that you're describing and moving forward to see if there are any highlights of the changes that this energy makes on this life form's life. Also was looking for more data as far as what was being moved, as you described moving something here. He's involved in the movement of something. And then the third retask was just to try to get more information on who or what was, quote, manufacturing, controlling, and sending this energy. You write that it was a natural but manufactured energy at the same time.
Yeah.
So that was interesting.
Okay then, yeah. So let's see where this goes. So yeah, very strange ideogram here. Lots of energy everywhere. It felt white, visual, like a thick cloud of energy. Sparkly, vibrant, explosive, and popping. So yeah, it had definitely had a physicality to it. And I wrote here again, this feels alive. So it felt like it had a consciousness to it. And the word visceral as well. I've never had that in an RV session before either. And I tried. Looks like I tried to do a timeline here. I don't know what my wording is on the end there. I don't even know my own writing yet.
It says, I think it says start and finish, and I'm guessing you were tracking the life form's life from when the energy and then moving.
Okay, yeah. Wow, I got the word ascension as well. Interesting. Okay. Yeah, so I had some free key points here, but I don't know what the context is. I have to be honest. One of them said I wrote here feels like a low point, and then these ones feel like they're good, and he felt level-headed here, and the far one here felt like he'd attained something, so he got the word attainment. And I asked what at this stage, and it was all about knowledge. And my AI here was this feels like an internal growth process. This is a person who, and I wrote here, this is a person who's passed in the past. And the life, so the life involved in the movement, I asked what here, because his hands were moving. This feels like he feels like he was holding a small object, and this was held or transported from one location to another, and it was protected in a box-like container, which felt a bit like I got a guess here of chess. I guess this might be where I was thinking or starting to pick up a bit of a Moses type feel with the with the tablets in the Ark and the Covenant kind of feeling to it. So I had a feel of a small box-shaped held object. And it feels like it was held within wood or a natural material, with an ornate or decorative feel. Felt very fragile, respected, revered, almost carried at a hand's distance, very carefully. And I got the words delicate and fragile underlined. And it felt like a container, and there was something inside which was powerful and energetic, and not from here. And I got the words fallen. And I vaguely remember, I don't know if I put it here, but I vaguely remember, the meteorite. It almost had like a meteoric kind of metallic feel to this, which I got here, because I got meteor here, hard, metallic, crystalline, and then it's celebrated, and people are in awe, and it was retrieved. So it was special, rare. It came from the sky downwards, and hit the desert in a drive location in the past. I got here again. It's definitely had a biblical feel, and we shouldn't have had this kind of feel. It felt like it had its own power to it. So it wasn't just like a piece of metal or something. It felt like it had some kind of weird power and energy that it radiated. So I wrote here, I sent that this is an object sought and fought over a long period of time. It's a source of power. It's celebrated, coveted, and wanted, and it feels hidden and protected. And this feels like a past event, feels muddled as if a story has been interwoven to hide the truth of this. At that stage. Interesting. So right here, what is manufacturing the energy behind all this? I had the word a collective, and I asked here of what? And I got life, energy, and forces, and they felt a bit like overseers or a council of sorts.
Bingo.
Yeah. And yeah, again, a secret society here. So it felt like it was something that, it was like a, yeah, talked about in secret within a few knowledgeable people, but not the masses. They didn't really know about what this was about. I think this is probably me trying to sketch it a bit more here, and it feels like, there's these entities up here in this cloud of energy trying to communicate the message downwards with this life form here. And there's above and a below feel type relationship to this, like a message from the gods to man, or from aliens to man. To be honest, gods and alien could be the same thing. I think it's interchangeable. Yeah, I had a slight feel like I was wandering here. Yeah, I might have been going slightly off target. I'm not too sure on that. But yeah, it did have that alien angle kind of feeling to it. And again, it might be the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
I tried to describe a bit more with the word what. Had this weird ideogram here of energy. It felt like it came downwards from high above. Very influencing. All part of a grand plan here as a guess. I tried drawing this energy type thing here. It felt like a single focal point, but way up and way off in the distance. And I had an AOL of future as well. I have to say, when you see that other RV session, this would be quite relevant to that other RV session. So it's amazing how they both combine. It's like, wow. So my notes here, I have to say some of this does not feel quite real. It feels mythical or story-like, or interpreted differently. And then it kind of, I had a feeling of legend, almost like this has been legend and written down. And I don't have, I wrote here as well, I don't have any idea what this is. It's very weird. Almost like it's purposely kept away from me or obscured from me in some way. I guess that's the end of that one.
And you have a little happy smiley face.
I did, yeah. So I was quite pleased with that one. I found that one quite interesting, I guess, on that one.
Sometimes you have a little happy smiley face. Sometimes you have a little, looks like a little
Yes.
frowny one. There's a
Yeah.
frowny one when you're feeling a little more confused or unsure. Or...
Yes. Yeah, or unsure about if it's a good or a bad target at all. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So for your retask for this next session, you had written in your session, which, I said, bingo, you said a collective overseer is a council of sorts.
Yeah.
And a hidden pathway. And I just want you to explore that data a little bit more this session.
Okay. So yeah, this started off with a really big ideogram here, which usually indicates space to me, and that's what I got here: wide open space, and it's above, and it's the universe, and it feels like a consciousness without form, very distributed, and I wrote above and everywhere. So with the AOL here, spirit. So yeah, almost like a universal godlike consciousness that was everywhere, really pervaded everything. This feels very like tapping into a different realm and existence of life in a non-physical state or form. It's like a place whereby energy and consciousness can communicate from. Felt very energetic, but also felt everywhere around me. Feels like a loose connected group of differing life forms, like a working group or council or similar. Naming it didn't feel important. It's the overall plan that's important, and that felt like it was all about growth and acceptance and belonging, almost like a community effort. And it felt like they were softly guiding. They were a softly guiding force in what we all do, and it had this angelic kind of feeling about it as well. I wrote here, this feels like I'm trying to access and understand something way larger and way older than I am, or I can imagine. It's vast, huge, older than time, a black, dark vastness to it all. Wow. Okay, well that is that is an exact match to that other session when I went to that space where it was, and I'll send it to you, and you'll actually see it. And you feel free to use it, but I actually sketch a place where all of this universal information comes from, which literally there is no light. It's just pure darkness, no light whatsoever exists there. So that ties into that.
Could you describe that as a nothingness based upon what you got?
Well, No, it was just devoid light but in this super condensed blackness, which felt like it was being squeezed super tight. I guess like a black hole or something, where everything's squeezed and super because it felt really compact. But all that was information. There was huge amounts of super compact information, but there was no light. I don't know how. Yeah. Yeah, so I got here. This feels like light moving through space, touching everything it encounters, never stopping, just growing. But there's no name for this. I got the hidden pathway in brackets here, so I was asking what this was. Whoa, and I wrote there, LOL, not so hidden. There are hints everywhere. It can be encountered day to day in... Oh, I can't read my writing there. Flows.
Actions.
Asset actions, thoughts, prayers, self-knowledge, and meditation. Feels like a path, a shining path to a door, and then a garden, and then a space. A progressive step process of enlightenment. A loss of self, a loss of ego and pain, a realization.
I wonder what that door is. A
Yes.
shining path to a door, and then a garden and a space.
It almost sounds like a series of meditations, doesn't it, to open oneself up?
Reminds me of a book that I talked about on a previous podcast. It's called The Door of Everything, I believe. Door of Everything or Door to Everything by Ruby Nelson. It was published in the 60s, I believe. Can't find any information about who Ruby Nelson is, but she's talking about this door. It's like the accumulation of a path to this door, and on the other side of this door is uh, basically like a garden, be one way to describe it. I think my as I was trying to dissect what she was talking about, my best guess is that Ruby was talking about the third eye energy center as a pathway to some sort of ascension or enlightenment, and through that energy center, all sorts of possibilities open up.
Yeah, interesting. Yeah, because yeah, all some of this. I mean, some of this stuff here feels very unlike me in an RV session to write this kind of stuff. Because I'm very kind of code, clinical, factual type of no messing. In my classical days of psychic stuff, I probably would have written a bit more of a flow like this because it allows that within the confines of what you're doing. So it's interesting now to going back out and almost a month later to reread this and seeing what I wrote because I have to be honest, I don't remember these RV sessions because I do so many 3 to 4 a week that it's very easy to lose track of what you've done. So seeing this now is very kind of like feels like a meditational, inspirational path to me, which is quite nice actually. Quite nice to reread.
It was a nice session.
And the line here: a loss of self, of ego, of pain, and a realization of love or universal love, and a path of nothingness. That's interesting as well. I'll have to think about that a bit more.
Yeah, path of nothingness seems almost contradictory, and yet there it is.
Yeah, that's I'm gonna have to think on that now that I've reread it again. And I wrote here, I don't know what this target is or how we got here, but it's interesting to feel this. A stepped journey of self-discovery that is internal but becomes external. It's the little things, they lead to bigger things, which lead to, and then I got the word, the way there. And of course, because I've looked at some stuff recently with Ingo Swan research on all this, I think that led me to the AOL Doma. But to be honest, the Doma with the people in this kind of council are very similar to the writings of this group of 9 and stuff. I wrote here, this has a religious feel, but not religious feel to it. As if I'm tapping into a thread and writing this down, and it's external to me. It's all about the journey and the experience, which is a long road. And again, a big, huge smiley face on this one. So
big one there.
I must have really liked that one. You don't see them very often from me.
All right. And I believe we're on session 5 at this point. And
yes. Yep.
for session 5, I wanted you to explore a couple more pieces of data. You have that data about an object that's being moved. I was wanting you to get more information about that object, maybe flesh out what the sorting out the story parts of the data versus the true parts of the data. And then I was just wanting to get more information about the life form as far as what it was teaching and what type of impact its teaching had.
Okay, yeah. Okay, so with that, I did this ideogram, which broken down shows a large scale energy. Felt like it was in space. I had an AOL of Milky Way here, so it felt like it was very big and very way off by the feeling of it. And in the middle here, I got this life form, which is Mel. And again, I had a spiritual leader type feel of this. Again, biblical type feel because I, got the AOL there of Jesus. So it felt all the life form that I was picking up did feel that far in the past, within that biblical kind of timescale of a few thousand years. And the energy felt vast, open, a big horizon to it, space, universe, and an AOL there of all-seeing eye, which is interesting because that's like a Masonic, and esoteric symbol for almost to represent God in the universal consciousness. So move to the moved object in describe, and I had something inside of a box-like thing here, and I'm trying to draw this energy and I nearly said the word radiation there. Energy, yeah, energy and light. It was kind of like beaming out from it. Radiating is a word. Radiating out from it, and it felt sacred and stored, hidden, contained object. It was glowing and energetic, and it was a source of power. It had a religious feel, and it was respected and observed. It radiated white light, which was blinding, and this was both energy and heat, and it radiated from the object. And energy here. This all felt very in the past, and this felt like it was contained in a box. Once I had that gave me an AOR there of the Ark or the Grail. It had that kind of. It felt like a metallic object, and it could have been any of them or all of them, to be honest. It felt like it was a metallic in structure, owed in a box, and it was revered, but it was very energetic and very powerful, and it was connected with this universal kind of consciousness. I wrote here, it feels otherworldly, so it didn't come from Earth, it came from above. And it's an artifact, and it felt like it came from the god or gods type feeling to it. Very old and ancient.
And this, just to interject, this data about this object, Coral's sessions had some very similar data, and this thread of data is not data that I expected at all that the viewers would come up with. So very interesting how this has showed itself through several of your sessions and across at least one other viewer.
Right, interesting, yeah. Shows there may be something to it, I guess. It felt old, ancient, over 2,000 years, which probably would be around the time of Jesus and the biblical stuff, yeah. Feels like a sacred, revered object, watched, moved, used since the dawn of man. I wrote here, it felt metallic, but at its core, more than this, something else. It felt multi-layered, almost like a honeycomb feel. I tried drawing it, and then because I drew it, I was like, oh, this feels like the Roswell crash material. So with the AOLs, you have to get that out. So I had to write it. Felt like I had more than one layer to it, 2 layers or more. Felt metallic, but also energetic. It felt like it radiated energy outwards. And weirdly, because of the jagged lines, I guess you could say it felt like it was broken or irregularly or abstract shaped. This felt complicated, as if purposely shrouded in myth and stories. I wrote here, I think at times, or I see and feel, understand the target, then it seems to shift to something else. I see, or I feel a whole mythology around this, in part not real. So I then said, okay, let's look at only the real. And I had, a small object contained in a structure or a box, radiating power. It's inside a box. And I wrote here, it hovers or is suspended. That's interesting. It emits energy, sparks, and light, and it's self-sustaining. And it feels like it's an intelligence or alive. So I looked at the word alive. I wrote here not human or physical, but it has a consciousness and it feels like it communicates. I then asked how. I got this through thought transference, pictures, ideas, dreams, and concepts. So then I asked why this communication. Got the words why not, which is kind of interesting. Feels like so yeah, it's almost like I'm a conversation at that point, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
Feels like an artifact from above, very old and ancient, emits energy waves, is in part sentient, communicating, but not through voice or sound. I think I wrote deeper than this. I wrote here it's been fought over, it's been searched for and craved. It's been wanted, desired by powerful men who are leaders and kings. It's been in battle, and it's been a symbol, and this is a symbol. And my last thoughts on this, or getting near my last thoughts I wrote here, this feels like an ancient artifact, a piece of something else. A metallic feel to this, or a metallic feeling thing. Feels like an ad hoc or jerry-rigged conduit. Wow, that's a word. A device that can link and communicate through images and thoughts. It's connected to a larger picture or happening, like a grand plan.
So I'm wondering here, if I was doing this session, I would be AOLing the Ark of the Covenant all over the place. And of course, you have. I'm wondering when you were getting this data come in, were you able to let that go, or did your thoughts keep coming back to that?
Yeah, I can't. I would have thought if I had more Ark of the Covenant stuff at this stage, I would have AOL'd it.
Mm-hmm, right.
Understand that when. Well, I mean, describing it at this stage, although I am describing something that's ancient, it felt more, because of the UFO type feelings, it did feel more alien than biblical at this stage, I
Mm-hmm.
think. So I don't know. Yeah, I don't know, to be honest.
I was just curious.
Yeah, because I'm talking about something that felt very ancient here all the time, whereas we know that but they're yeah, which is Ark of Covenant and not Roswelly. Yeah, very strange. I mean, it could be a bit, probably where the confusion comes from. It could be bit of both.
Yeah, I
Um,
wonder if that's where some of the
Ancient but
interweaving of
alien.
story and myth
Yeah.
and truth.
Yeah, yeah. So I wrote here in one of the final bits here. It feels like it infects or influences all who try to use it, or all people who get within its sphere of influence. I mean that in that it was an object inside a structure that emitted energy. So you'd only literally need to be in the room with this
Yeah.
for it to already start working its kind of communication on you. It felt very subtle, very subtle. I wrote here, so yeah, that means unperceivable. I think, and you have to be open to it for it to happen as well. Oh, that's interesting. Okay. I looked at the word teaching here to see what that meant because I think you asked me to look at that.
Mm-hmm.
And I wrote here it's taught multiple people in the past. It's like it implants ideas, concepts, and images. Uh, and then I had a military feel to this in the past. So it's used for or thought of as a weapon in the past. And it was used for a weapon as well. Which then led me to get right the word whoa, okay, to this. All right, there it's hidden. It creates circumstances that help keep it hidden. It knows people want to abuse its power. Oh, that's interesting. So I guess it's sentient enough then to hide itself.
Mm-hmm.
Oh wow, that would make sense with some of these ancient artifacts. Although the ancient artifacts aren't the target. But, the things like the Grail and the Ark of the Covenant stuff with it. After 2,000 years of finding, we just don't really know where they are.
Mm-hmm.
But it had an archaeological feel to it as well. I think this is my final note. Yeah, so this feels like it's an object that has great power and energy. It's connected to above Earth. It's old, possibly ancient, metallic in part, layered with a substructure. It feels like it can be dangerous and yet also kind, and helping. Can't see what that word is there.
Yeah, I was wondering about that one too.
Yeah. Advising.
Okay. Yep.
Kind, advising, and helping. It knows people close to it. It's aware. It's connected and can communicate through concepts, images, ideas, mind to object. It has been abused, threatened, and used in, I guess that's in the past, and it's now in. It now is hiding. That's weird because that makes it feel like it's almost got like an AI type of, it's aware of everything it's doing. So that's, yeah, I haven't thought about that, but that's interesting. It knows people want to use it. Um, it does help and subtly guide those who do not want to harm it or do harm with it. Oh, I actually wrote it here, and it feels almost like the first AI. I
Yep.
didn't even realize
Yeah, I
that.
was
Yeah,
waiting for you to get to that.
yeah. It's like, whoa, what's that? As I said, I forget what I've done in these RV sessions. So this is all kind of almost like a refresh for me.
Yeah.
Um, and I looked at the words all seeing eye in a bit more detail, and you got communicate from above the makers, a tool, device, machine, search, new, backed by power, hidden in a sandy, hot place underground, dangerous, owed, lots of followers, corrupt, powerful group, and secrets. Yeah, and a face on that one. So that's it. That's it for the RV sessions. Yeah, very interesting. Wow.
This data of this object that could be self-aware, I find fascinating, and it's interesting to think how that could relate to the tasking or the target, which was the Council of Nine. Could if there is a group of off-world entities that kind of protect and influence the evolution of humans, it's not it could be that they would have use of a technology that could be
Yeah.
here to help their mission in some way, and
Yeah.
some self-aware technology, perhaps subtly uh, affecting the evolutionary path of mankind.
Yeah. Yes.
Interesting
That's
data.
that's the kind of feel it seems to have. Anyway, from my data so far, yeah, some kind of council of beings or universal consciousness from above, interacting with us through some kind of, yeah, object that was, yeah, sent down or delivered. I don't know what the process was there, how we got it, but it came from above to Earth, and that was, yeah, a communication device to subtly change and influence those, I guess, worthy of doing it. Because I guess it didn't want the communication to happen. I guess the communication was between, not with the object itself, but with something up higher. Uh, it sounds like from the last few pages, it didn't want that to happen to people that wanted to do harm in some way,
Hmm.
not very nice people.
So it has sort of a benevolent orientation.
Yeah, it seems to be. Yeah, it doesn't seem. It did say that I did have some indications that it might have been, or people might have tried to use it as a weapon. So that's interesting. And I
Hmm.
think there are tells of the Ark, being carried in front of armies, kind of thing. But I
Hmm.
don't know how the Ark would deal with this. But if there are these higher beings out there, like the Council of Nine, then maybe they did send something like this to educate and, I guess, yeah, try to get us on this
Yes,
on this
and
pathway. Yeah, it's all
some type of an
fascinating, isn't it?
experiment.
Yeah.
The other thing that object data in your sessions reminded me of is in the Law of One. I've done a lot of reading of the Law of One, and one of the things they talk about is there is actually technology. I'm not sure where they say it is, but basically computers that I believe have some level of self-awareness, and their sole purpose is to respond to the prayers and meditation of humans asking for help at a low level. Uh, when a human calls for help, what should I do to, grow as a person? You meditate, you
Yeah.
do the basics, and in a Law of One, they say that these computers were approved because people generally keep asking the same thing, but they don't apply it. And the life forms that were giving this information, um, really wanted to spend their time working with the humans that were doing more advanced things. So they put these computers in place to answer the more, spiritual evolution 101 type of questions, so that it could free life form the more advanced life forms to deal with people that were asking them more advanced questions. Just reminded me, it sounded like a similar technology, if
Yeah,
that
definitely,
exists.
yeah. And now I've just gone through it as well. It just reminded me a little bit of I've just literally just recently in the last week or so got some remote viewing work that Ingo Swan did of where he tasked 6 remote viewers to look for the Atlantean Hall of Records underneath the Sphinx and Giza Plateau area, and it was some of his ex-military remote viewers worked on this, and some of his friends, and I vaguely remember that some of the data they got were of sentient guardians in these rooms underneath the area, and machines and artifacts and stuff like that as well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, which all ties into all this as well. What I'll do is I'll find that out and send. You can't publish it, but for your own work, for your own work, I'll send you a copy of that as long as
Oh
you.
yeah, that'd be
Yeah,
interesting.
yeah,
Very ancient, a high technology, way above anything that we have right now, as
yeah.
far as I know.
Seems like there. Yeah, it seems that there's probably a lot in our ancient history that we just still don't know enough about. Um, yeah, very interesting. I'm looking forward to seeing what all the other people's data on this is when I see the videos now to see what correlates. Very interesting.
Mm-hmm. Yep, I think you'll find several of the viewers' information correlate really well with yours. So I'm looking forward to getting that together for all of you.
Yeah, yeah, great project.
Thanks, Daz, and thanks for going over your session data with us. I want to go over your contact information where more people can find more information about you. There's remoteviewed.com, which is your website. It's been around
Yeah,
forever. It's got a wealth of information for somebody wanting to find out more about remote viewing. And then, of course, there is the Signal Line, which is a podcast. You
yes,
also have, you can find that on podcasting apps. You have a remote viewed YouTube channel, right? Is that called
yes,
remote
yeah,
viewed? Yeah.
yeah. So that's just
And then,
YouTube/remote viewed, or just type in remote viewed in YouTube, and that's
mhm.
got. I think it's only been going. It's only the videos from the last probably just over a year or so through in lockdown. But
Mhm.
there's a good 50 or 60 2 to 4 hour videos there. Yeah,
Amazing amount of information. And you really get into the details of stuff because you have these amazing guests on the luminaries in remote viewing, and people, they're open to ask any question you want. And
yeah, yeah.
I've been on quite a few, and they're very special
Got
special
we have some
things.
good ones coming up as well. John Knowles is on the 18th talking about alpha numerics and alphabetics in remote viewing,
Okay, yeah.
and I'm hoping the week after that I'll have the ex director of Stargate on Del Graf, which
Oh
should be
wow,
interesting. Yeah,
definitely.
yeah.
Any other, if someone wants to tune into those Zoom chats live, what's the best way for them to get the information?
I usually stick the information out mainly on YouTube, on the remote viewing website on Reddit. That's an interesting resource for any new people as well.
Okay.
And that has a growing community of over 44,000 people join that on Reddit at the moment, so it's
Hmm.
growing big and fast. So that'd be a good resource as well. Lots of people on there practicing targets and having myself and many of the people are on there virtually every night of the week having conversations, for example,
And
into the wee hours.
is that connected to the Discord at all, or
It's
are
yes,
those
it's
separate?
the Discord is a sub kind of channel of the Reddit thing. Yes.
So how does someone get connected to the Reddit and the Discord? Is there links on your website, or where did?
There. I put links to the Reddit channel on all the YouTube videos and the podcast. There's none on my
Okay.
website as it stands. The Reddit thing's a bit of a newer thing.
Hmm.
So literally, you just go to Reddit and type in /remote viewing, and you find the remote viewing
The
channel.
biggest one out there.
Yeah, and through
Okay.
that itself, it's got all the links there to Discord. And as I said, we're there. I'm there. Carl and many other remote viewers are there on a on a daily and nightly basis. But this time of night onwards at night, we're usually there for 3-4 hours a night chatting with people.
Wow. Yeah, Demi mentioned that she spent a lot of time with you and other viewers there and got a lot out of the Discord. I have not checked it out yet, but it sounds like something to look into.
It's great fun. We don't do video a lot, but we do a lot of typing text, and we do a lot of audio chats like this. So we all get on our mics and just ask questions, do live remote viewing, all kinds of stuff over there.
The live remote viewing sounds up my alley. I really enjoy
A lot of
any
them are
kind of.
doing live and monitored remote viewings over there, and you'll find huge amounts of people willing to work with people over there. Very friendly. Unlike Facebook, which can be quite toxic at times.
Yes.
The remote viewing Reddit, and as I said, it's got more people than Facebook's got. It's got over 44,000 people in the Reddit group. It's very friendly.
What do you just before we sign off here? What do you think the difference is between the levels of toxicity between Facebook and something like this Reddit community?
It's hard to understand why. I don't know. I honestly don't know. I guess maybe because Facebook can be a bit more of like an echo chamber. You surround yourself with people that have got only very similar tastes to yourself, whereas Reddit's a bit more open. And the Discord thing feels a bit more kind of open and free. I don't know. And the people there just don't allow that kind of thing to happen. If the toxicity gets over there within an hour, it's like shut down, and those people are kicked out of it, kind of thing.
Maybe a different level of moderation or different philosophy around moderation, possibly.
Yeah. It's very strange. It's just not tribal in any way. Remote viewing can be pretty tribal. People that learn a certain methodology only stick with and talk to people in that methodology. Reddit's not like that, and I like that kind of ethos because, for myself, and I've said this many times, it doesn't matter what method people use. Just pick one of the many available flavors of remote viewing, and spend a few years doing it, and you do that, and then you'll end up being good at it. And just pick one. It doesn't matter which one. Any that feels good to you.
Yep. Yeah, I started with CRV and or SRV. Started with SRV and then CRV,
Yeah.
and continuing to be open to learning more from various other.
Yeah. I started in SRV because there was nothing else about. Got trained in the CRV, and now I'm classed as a little bit of a heretic because, as you know, because you mentored with me, I slightly changed how I do CRV because I found that there were certain things that worked better for me. But that's not, that's probably one of the toxicity things in remote viewing. That's not acceptable to some people to make changes, but I don't believe in that ethos. I think we're all individuals. You've got to find what works for you.
But I also know that you're very protective of remote viewing in general. It's a part of you live and breathe remote viewing. So while you feel that it's important not to be tribal and important to be open to refine what works for you, what do you think are the critical things that differentiate remote viewing from some sort of looser general psychic clairvoyance type of approach? Can you just share that with the viewers to help them guide their way?
It's not so much the method that we use, which is some of the main arguments out there at the moment. The most important differentiating factors is are the protocols. So remote viewers, you kind of, when you decide that you want to be a remote viewer, kind of making a pact that what you're doing is going to follow these rules. And for me, the most important one is blindness. So you don't know what you're working on, and you don't have a monitor or someone in the room feeding you information in one form or another. And that, I think that's very key to it. And a lot of psychic disciplines, because they're working one-to-one with a person sat across from them, that negates it being blind. To be honest, you can't you can't not allow the possibility that there might be some kind of code reading or body language or pheromones or anything happening under those circumstances. Whereas with a remote viewer, where we've signed up to try to be as scientific as possible in what we do.
Mhm. So if a remote viewing is doing a target blind, does that meet your definition of remote viewing, regardless of what technique they're using, or is there any
Yeah.
other?
I don't care how people get the information, what method they use, and a lot of the projects I'm doing with people, like I'm running 3 or 4 at a time. When I ask for Facebook people, I don't mind what method they're using, as long as
Mhm.
they're blind and they can provide information in a nice, clean way, so I can see what that information is. Yeah,
Okay.
any method's fine.
Okay.
Yeah,
All right. Well, thanks for your time, Daz. If
it's been great chatting
crypto,
again.
yeah, absolutely. We should do this more often. If someone wants
Definitely.
to see, I started following your work when you were working with Courtney Brown and Farsight. If someone wants to tune into your most current projects as a viewer, where you're putting data out, is CryptoViewing.com the best place to find that work?
Yeah, I think it probably is. Or page, if they want to sign up for it on a monthly basis, it's on uh, Patreon/crypto viewing.
Okay.
As we discussed earlier, we're doing the occasional kind of mystery woo woo target,
Hmm.
but we'd probably do 3 to 4 cryptocurrency targets a month, and we're also doing our monthly news predictions from 4 different remote viewers as well.
Hmm.
So that's the main bulk of the work.
All right, Daz. Thanks again. Have a great rest of your day.
And you, yep.